Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conscious Conversion. I am thrilled to have you listening in on today's episode with the amazing Kimberly Johnson. Kimberly is a birth doula, certified sexological body worker, somatic experience practitioner, postpartum care advocate, and fellow single mama. She is the author of The Fourth Trimester, a beautiful postpartum guide to healing on the physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual levels. She's also the founder of the holistic women's health hub Magamama, where she hosts regular trainings on trauma and transcendence, balancing the nervous system, connecting more deeply with our sexuality and sensuality, and so much more. I am honored to have Kimberly as my guest on Conscious Conversion. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Thank you so much for coming. So I'm just gonna start out. Do you have anything to add to the bio or anything else you want to say?
No, I think that was great. I mean, I bet people are just like, whoa, what are all those things? Sexological. But yeah.
Well, and one of your titles is vagina proctor.
That's right. Yeah. That was given to me by a client on the table. She was like, oh, no, I get it. You're kind of like a vagina proctor. And I was like, that's very straightforward and catchy. So yeah, let's keep that.
Yeah. Is there anybody else using that title in the whole world?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone else wants it either, but not like I trademarked it or anything.
That makes you very special. Well, that and many other things. Mm-hmm. What kind of impact do you want to have in the world in the next 5 years?
Well, in the next 5 years, my daughter will be 17. So I want to be as present as I can for her for this period of her life. Sometimes I forget that I'm a mom and I get all these fancy ideas and plan all this stuff in my head. And then I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. I've got a school year to contend with and homework to do. And oh yeah, right. I forget about my personal life sometimes because I'm so into what I'm doing. In the next 5 years, I want to revolutionize the way that people see trauma and hopefully help develop a common vocabulary, a lot like someone like Marie Kondo. Now people say, oh, I'm condoing this or I'm doing that. I'd like basic level nervous system tracking to become something that's just part of our collective lexicon of how we relate to each other. So I think that's a good goal for 5 years, to have raised a child that feels secure and likes to be alive and wants to make a life for herself that feels in alignment with who she is, and then also to have shaped a conversation around trauma that really doesn't see women's voices as derivative or women's anatomy as derivative, but actually centers female experience as well as giving a generation of people a new language to talk about sexuality and to talk about relationship. I think that would be good.
I think that's amazing. If we can accomplish that in 5 years, all of the above, I think we'll have made a huge impact on the planet. So thank you for doing that work.
Yeah. I think in 5 years too, that there's going to be more in the US. I live in the US. There'll be more maternity leave. I think in 5 years, more people will understand the importance of the postpartum time. And to that end, I'm hoping to, I wrote a book. I wrote cards that go with the book. I wrote a journal that goes with the book that won't be out for like another year. But with that body of work.
This is the fourth trimester you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah, with the fourth trimester, I think that I'll probably do some kind of a film, documentaries, some kind of a series to show all the different experiences worldwide that women have and how they're cared for. I think that having that visual image of, in Holland, a woman gets somebody who comes to her house every single day for 6 hours for 12 days postpartum to teach her about baby care and to teach her about herself. So I think that if women here see that, it doesn't seem so strange or so luxurious. It seems more like, oh yeah, we actually really need that.
Yeah, so it's becoming the norm, right?
Yeah, so I think that'll happen because in 2 years since my book came out, there's already way, way, way more discussion about birth trauma and postpartum recovery. So I think in 5 years that'll happen. And also my daughter just turned 12, or a couple months ago. I already see in her generation, and just with her, like, she totally knows so much more about her body and menstruating, and she's like the go-to person at her school for that kind of information. So I think it'll happen.
Amazing. And it's amazing that you have a daughter who apparently welcomes that, that's beautiful. Yeah. You post a lot about her on Instagram and Facebook, and it's beautiful to watch and to see your raw honesty. So yeah, we'll give more information about how to find Kimberly later, but you definitely want to tune in because her posting is amazing.
I always ask her, just by the way, in case people are like, because I know a lot of people have things about posting their kids. I started social media with Facebook when I lived in Brazil so that I could keep in touch with more people. So people are kind of used to hearing about her, but also she has veto power. So I don't ever post things of her without showing her or asking her if it's okay.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good to know. I think it's a good rule of thumb. So, okay. What kind of people do you feel like resonate with you the most?
I feel like people who are on what I call the left-handed path. So people, that's a term from Joseph Campbell, people who are not following the rules of how society tells us life, the order of things that is supposed to happen. So more people who are creative, artistic, healers. I was a yoga teacher, so I speak that language. So yoga teachers, yeah. And also there's something, I'm told that there's something about the way that I communicate that comes across as very unapologetic. And because so many women feel they spend a lot of time in comparison of, am I good enough? I'm not sure I'm good enough. Is it okay to disagree? What's going to happen if I state my opinion strongly? Those don't tend to be questions that I spend a lot of time in. So that comes across as like, wow, she just says what she thinks, or she's got wrinkles and she puts her face on Facebook anyway, or I don't always, I'm deliberately not vain. So I post things that are like not exactly cute days or whatever. It's not dependent on my state of when I show myself. So I think people who want more of that are the people that resonate with it. And also other single moms and women who are entrepreneurs and are trying to figure out how to do things differently and parent the way that they want to parent at the same time as building their career.
Yeah, there is something about you that shows up. It's really radical and polarizing in all the right ways. Like it's almost impossible to take your eyes off in a really good way. So I think. Yeah,
it's interesting because my message is really about non-polarization but in order to do that, we have to be okay with differentiation.
Exactly.
So healthy differentiation, which means sometimes saying things that other people won't like, or that that make you feel like you're different or somebody might not understand you. But most of the time, those are the things that really make people understand you. Like when I wrote my first book, I thought, okay, well, I can't tell too much of my story because, and my publisher actually said, like, limit the amount of Portuguese that's in the book. Like Americans don't like foreign languages and all this stuff. Which is funny because that's not at all the case of most of my audience. A lot of my audience is from different, have lived in different places in the world and stuff. But I thought, well, my experience is so outlier. Like who goes to another country and then just gets pregnant and then just has a baby in another language? And it's like, it's too different, right? But actually the specificity of the details are the things that people, even if they don't have that same experience, there's some element of it that people relate to. And without that detail, if you just stay in the generalities, it's much harder to relate to because someone's just telling you the final conclusions or like the big picture lessons rather than the nitty gritty of what got them there. So
as you're talking, I have goosebumps because everything that you're saying is so like right on and what I would tell people to embody, and especially, in online marketing and social media, like this is what you need to do. You need to get so specific and so real and authentic and, you know, and aligned with who you truly are. And
I think that that's a hard thing to describe, because what we're seeing is sort of false vulnerability. And because, you know, it's like everyone's saying, be vulnerable, be vulnerable. But it's not a good idea to talk about your vulnerability in the middle of the shitstorm.
Exactly.
And,
there's where's the line of too much information?
And when you feel like people are doing their therapy with using you as their like therapy tool, and also in kind of this performative vulnerability. So I don't actually know how to tell people that. I mean, because to me, it's all an internal radar that I have. I have an internal sense of a bell tone and what that bell tone is. And I can feel it in other people's stuff, and I can feel it in myself. And so I do a lot of just waiting. Like this week, I don't think I've posted like on social media for like, I posted like once in the last 2 weeks. And part of it was because I was out of town going to a training, but it's also just because like I kind of just don't feel like it, and I would be forcing it if I were to do it. And I trust my ebbs and flows, because there's times when I get totally fired up and I'm like, I feel like I'm creating a narrative with it, just with imagery and with my words. But for me, not forcing it means then I can tell that it's actually ringing true when I do it. Because if I were to force it, it just is like, I'm just going through the motions. And I know because of all these rules, like, oh, consistency is better than volume. And, you know, there's so much input that people get of how to do it all. But, you know, it's different for every kind of business. But for the kind of business that I have, just like a traditional sales tactic doesn't work, all these like specific rules don't really work, because then I'm not actually modeling what I'm telling people to do. So for me, it's like especially important that the fractal of the actually what I'm teaching together with it has to ring true on all of the levels. And I have to really be convinced that what I'm offering is valuable. Otherwise, it's just filler.
Yeah. I'm really glad that we used the word fractal today.
Good. Perfect.
What
expect me to understand that and to explain it in the physics realm, but I do know what it means. Yeah,
no, it's clear that you know exactly what you're saying at every moment. I know. You speak with such intentionality, and I appreciate that. What kind of rituals and routines help you show up in the world aligned and ready to serve your people?
So I'm not a big ritual and routine person. Everybody who knows me knows that about me. I'm an ebbs and flow person. So I am not a person who wakes up, drinks lemon water, and does morning pages every day, and then sits at my altar and lights a candle and makes intentions. It's just not how I work. And it's so relieving to just acknowledge that and to say that unapologetically and shamelessly. When I had a PR person about 2 years ago, and I was in like the beauty and wellness space. You don't even imagine how many interviews that's like their main question. And they expect you to be like, well, I've got a 6-part skincare routine, and I use this brand, and I do this. And it was like, at that time, my daughter's like 8 years old. I'm like, if I fucking survive the morning without like me crying or her crying, that's a victory. Like, that's my ritual and routine. Like, try to get breakfast for everyone. Try to get her, like, have everything she needs for school. So these days I have a business called Our Breath Collective, where we do 12 minutes of breathing together every day live around the world. So that is a ritual. I don't do it every day. I don't really do anything every day. I mostly brush my teeth every day. Sometimes twice, but that's like kind of the only thing I do every day. And I think almost always wear pajamas at night. Other than that, I drink a lot of water.
But I think this is so, even just to me personally, this is really liberating, because for the last 2 years living in the States, I had an incredible morning ritual that was so powerful for me. And then since the transition of moving down to Costa Rica in the last several months, it completely went away. It's completely fallen off. And there were moments where I was beating myself up, like, oh my God, what's my life gonna be if I don't have my morning ritual that really had such a beautiful impact on my life. And I've had to keep remembering, like, this is life is cyclical, it's an ebb and flow. I'm not always going to be in that space. I don't need that right now, or I would be doing it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, my life is made up of jungle logistics every morning. It's like, oh, is there a torrential downpour? How do I need to
respond to nature and respond to what's happening?
I was calling it for a while. I was calling it beautiful chaos. When people mm-hmm. would say how you're doing, I would say, well, I'm good. It's beautiful chaos over here. Mm-hmm. And then I've refigured that to be living in harmony with nature. So when you're living in harmony with nature, it feels like fucking chaos. Mm-hmm. But what it really is you having to stay in the flow with whatever is happening. And we're so not used to that in the concrete jungle.
Definitely. I mean, I'm not saying, I also realize that I'm 45. So I've been doing yoga since I was 19. And from 19 to 32, I had a daily practice and, an hour or two a day of yoga practice, sitting practice, chanting practice, the whole thing. So for some people that have never had a daily routine, I can see why that's really stabilizing and important. Also, certain personalities really thrive on that. For certain people, it's like, it's very destabilizing to not have that kind of a structure or a to-do list. For me, there are things that I love to do. I love to walk while I'm on my phone calls. I find, where I live in New York now. So in San Diego, I drove everywhere. Now I walk everywhere. So I just feel more healthy overall because I'm walking all the time. There's movement classes that I love getting to, and I'm realizing, my schedule ebbs and flows based on where I'm at with writing. I'm writing a new book, how that goes. So there's classes each week. Like there's one class every Tuesday at 11 that I kind of protect and that I don't want other things to interfere with. And if they do, I notice it kind of makes my week off because I can't get that same kind of thing any other time. Since we've moved, I do eat breakfast with my daughter almost most mornings. And we do sit around a table at dinner as well. So those are kind of rituals. I'm trying to enforce a few more because she's getting home from school and it's already dark out. And I feel like I just default to keeping working, and now a lot of her homework is on a computer too. So I'm trying to figure out how to create more connected time for us that's non-task oriented, like me checking if she's done their homework and stuff, because that's just annoying for me to be in that role all the time with her.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like a non-answer. So basically I don't have that many, I teach a class
I think that's
every
awesome.
Tuesday. I call it Jaguar Church Hour. So every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific, I teach. And that's pretty much every Tuesday. That's what I'm doing. And that's a nice sort of anchor in my week so that at least I know that's what's happening. And then once a week, I teach our Breath Collective at 9 a.m. here, 6 a.m. Pacific. But other than that, I really thrive with a lot of open space. I need a lot of internal space for me to know where things are located and what rises to the surface as priorities.
So we've talked a lot about how you are genuinely authentic, and I'm wondering, how do you stay genuinely authentic as you start to grow and you bring in help for your business? I mean, I know for a fact that for the last year, what's that?
Well, I have good friends who I know will tell me if I'm screwing up, right? So this is a really hard question because I feel like it just comes easily to me and I don't know why. I don't have a lot of hooks in my ego about things, and I'm not sure why I don't. And that's not like some weird false humility. It's actually I need to actually claim more things more of the time. I'm more likely to just dismiss that it has something to do with me and just to say, oh, well, this is just what's happening and I'm a conduit for it and this is how it's shaping up. But as far as like staying true to myself, it's because I'm not trying to be authentic. Like, I don't know how to teach someone to be authentic. Honestly, I don't. I mean, I know how to teach someone to regulate their nervous system, and I think regulating your nervous system makes you more authentic.
Absolutely.
I also don't have a lot of inhibition, and I'm not sure how that happens. I don't I hold myself to a high internal standard, but as far as what I produce or share, I always have room that I could be wrong, and I always have room that I might change my mind. Therefore, that makes me let go of perfectionism. So the minute that's why so much of my stuff is live, because it feels like less pressure. If you rehearse something and you plan it and then you do it, to me, that feels more crystallized, which is, hard with the book because that's really crystallizing and saying like, I think this. But otherwise I feel like, oh, we're just having conversation. And like, oh, today I said that, and tomorrow, you know what, that was dumb. I don't really think that. To me, it's like, it's okay. So I know a lot of people just get caught up on the perfection thing of like, I don't know enough. It's not good enough. I'm not far enough along. And because I am a single mom, and I was a single mom from pretty much the beginning, that was like the hardest thing and the best thing for me, because I had to do it. So it was like, I had to push myself off the edge. I used to be really like, oh, yoga's too important and it's too precious to me to like commodify, and I don't know, like, I don't think I should be the one to do it, and a lot of different things. But then when I had to make a living, it was like, look, you got to play the game, and play the game the way that it feels good to you, and figure that out. Right.
How can you work within the system in such a way that feels aligned with your own values? That's what I do,
right. As
a marketing strategist, who's also very much a hippie in my heart. Like, how can I stay aligned with my own values while I do this marketing thing?
But I feel like the bridge there is just education.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're actually offering people education, when I'm in a sales cycle, I'm like, I don't feel bad about quote unquote selling, because I know I'm offering people so many good things, even if they don't take my course. Somebody interviewed me yesterday for a podcast, and she said, I listened to your money in the nervous system call, and I just wanted you to know that I'm a single mom too. And I just felt so validated listening to the whole call, and I didn't sign up for the class because I was traveling and all this other stuff. But it's like, yes, I want to make money, and yes, I want people to sign up, but it's like, if it's not the right thing for someone, I'm glad they're not signing up. Or if the timing isn't right, I'm glad that they're not signing up. So I feel like people say, oh, that's really smart, because I forget what you call it in sales, when you basically say like, don't buy this kind of thing. But I don't do it because I think that ahead of time. I do it because I really mean it. Like, I told someone, don't take this class if you can't pay your rent. Because someone actually bought the class and then wrote and said, I can't pay my rent. And I refunded their money, because I'm like, yeah, if you're choosing between paying your rent and buying this class, please pay your rent. I don't want to take people's money because they're desperate, or they feel like there's no other solution out there. I always try to remind people there's a lot of solutions out there. I'm one possibility. There's a lot of ways that you can go about this, and you'll know if this is the right way. And if you don't know, then just wait. And people are like, is this the last time you're going to teach this class? I'm like, I don't know. And that's also honest. I don't know, because the same way that I am with my life of like, today I don't feel like doing this, I'm going to lay in my bed and read, which honestly I should do a lot more than I do. I am like, same with my courses. Like, if I schedule something and then I'm like, I'm just not into that right now, I just don't want to even talk about that, I don't do it,
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be scare people. And actually I announced that it was going to be the last time that I taught something, because I thought it was. And then I realized that last class was so impactful, the Forging a Feminine Path. I was like, I have to teach this again. And then a few people got really mad and said, you pushed that really hard last time, saying it was the last time, and it wasn't the last time, and that's not honest. And I said, well, it actually was honest for the time. I understand that that's annoying, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that, but I also just realized it was super valuable. And so I realized it just wasn't a good idea for me to stop doing it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so we met much earlier this year, like early in 2000, at the time of this recording, it's 2019. So we met earlier in 2019. And at the time you had done everything organically, so freaking well. So tell me about your business when you were putting all of your focus on reaching people organically, and now you're doing paid ads. You've been doing paid ads for a while now.
Yeah.
What was working before? How did that work before? Because when you came to me, it was like you were already kicking ass.
Yeah.
And this was just, paid ads was just sort of like icing on the cake. So how did you do that?
Well, I don't totally know. I don't know exactly how it happens, because if it's organic, you don't know where people are coming from, right? I think the best thing to do is produce the highest quality content. And that doesn't mean, okay, so I did write a ton of articles, because when my first book came out, I worked with a PR person. And so I wrote maybe 60 articles on all different platforms, from Lacey Phillips to Motherly to I was in Vogue, and so I'm assuming that those things led to follows, but you can't track that specifically. Yeah. For me and my personality, as I mentioned, improvisation is the easiest thing. So if I would have waited to like film myself when I have like 3 points that I'm trying to give and I never would have started, because I don't like giving people answers. I like being in questions with people, in inquiry. So I'm not a person that's going to tell you a protocol or a method. I'm a person that's going to give you principles and foundational information for then you to take what you need for yourself. And that's not appealing to some people, and it is to others. And most marketing people are like, that's terrible, because you have to tell people 5 bullet points or 3 things or 25 things or whatever. So I just started recording lots of Facebook Lives and talking about everything. And at the time when I started doing that, I was just fresh out of sexological bodywork training. So I was being really brave and like talking about anal sex on my personal Facebook page, where my parents are my friends, right? So
wow.
I eventually was like, hey guys, maybe you want to unfollow me if you don't want to
right.
talk about dildos and shit. But I was trying to make connections between all of these conversations, between sexual health, pelvic health, gynecological health, trauma, birth. And so, I just, I think Facebook Lives were kind of the first thing off my personal page, which at the time was getting tons of views. And then at Me Too, I recorded a video that was sort of a real tipping point, where 17,000 people watched it and there were tons of shares. And that
was from your personal page?
Yep. And I still do them for my personal page frequently, because they'll run them more, and different people will see them who don't follow my business, who still will buy different things. So it's kind of like diversifying your portfolio, diversify your social media thing. That said, like, I'm not on Pinterest. I'm not on LinkedIn. They say authors. I don't mean LinkedIn. Although I'm not on that either. But I'm not on Twitter. Yeah. Authors are always supposed to be on Twitter, because that's where writers are. Like, I hate Twitter. I don't use it. So it's like, I don't do things that I know that I'm not going to do. So I'm not on YouTube yet either, which I've been really thinking about. But, I watch what's happening and I follow the trends. Like early on with IGTV, I saw that an IGTV would just get hit like 15 times more than a post. So it's like, all right, let's own the IGTV space and just knock that out of the park. And, I'm just excited about stuff. And if I'm not excited about it, then I don't talk about it. So I talk about the things that are really exciting. And I've made mistakes. People have said to me, like, well, you're like breaking confidence of your clients, because I'll talk about specificity, I'll talk about certain cases, people I've worked with. I do generalize. I don't give away people's personal details. But that's a line that I've definitely walked over time, because I feel like sharing those stories is what makes people feel understood, and what makes them hear things that they can identify with. And they're like, oh yeah. Because a lot of people don't know the help that they need, right? They just know how they're feeling, but a lot of times they can't even identify the problem.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that the things that you're offering resonate with your people? Like, do you like, you don't like poll people, but somehow you just kind of intuit based on feedback that you get either energetically or verbally, what people need, and you offer it to them? Or is it just coming from within you and you just offer what you want?
No, it has to be both, because but usually it's related, because I'm a very service-oriented person. So like on the drama triangle, I'm like rescuer. Like, I just want to help. Like, I want to like solve everyone's problems for them. You know, I'm very underdog oriented internally. So like, for instance, teaching about money. I taught a class about money starting, not just one class in July. Why did I choose that? Well, because the months prior, that was coming up in almost all my conversations about birth and sex, where people would be like, oh, I'd really like to have a home birth, but I don't have the money. Oh, I have this great business idea, but I don't have the money. Oh, I'm still living with my abusive husband because I don't have any money to move out. And I realized that all those are related to the nervous system too. And it doesn't help me to tell somebody that they need pelvic floor PT if they can't pay for it, or they, you know, or they're not going to prioritize it and pay for it. So then we've got to like take it a layer back. So I thought, all right, you know, it's not like I really know that much money other than my own relationship to it, because I'm not a finance person. I'm not, you know, I'm a lay person, but I'm like, this is a conversation that has to happen. So then I do it. And then, you know, you get confirmation because of how many people sign up for things. Of course, I know that I wrote a book about postpartum care. So talking about birth, talking about postpartum are things that my audience wants to hear about.
Right.
But for me, on the writing side of things, I'm not very strategic about that. I'm more like writing about like what's really alive in me at the moment.
Right.
Which is why I don't have a blog, which I know I should have. But it's just like, I don't.
Oh, your Instagram is your blog. I feel like you do so much there.
It's kind of true, but at the same time, yeah. I also am smart enough to know that just like things have migrated from Facebook to Instagram, that there's going to be a time when things migrate off Instagram. Yeah. And so I also, you know, my friend said, she said something like big girls have plan Bs or something like that, which I thought was funny. But I do think about that, you know, because like that's why I'm considering YouTube, because it's like, you know, it's just smart, like anything. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I, as you know, because we have to deal with the fact that I use sexuality and words about sex in my stuff that then flags things for Facebook, I could get my profile pulled off Instagram in a heartbeat. And if that's the only place that I have where I'm talking about my work, then that dries up a huge thing, which is, you know, why one of my goals with you, more than selling classes, was building my list. Because
which we have done amazingly.
We're more than doubled.
Yeah, I mean,
sure, which is my goal.
Huge testament to your offerings. What got you interested in doing paid ads in the first place, since you were kicking ass organically?
Oh gosh, I mean, again, I wish that if I was talking to you about your business and you were asking me to help you, then I could tell you exactly like where you're at and be like, yes or no. But as a general rule, I can't explain to people, like it's intuition. Like I think there's some part of me that has like an amount of money. Like for a while I had a PR person on retainer. And to me, that's like, okay, that's a business expenditure that has an unquantifiable value, but that does have a lot of return. And I think that I always knew that I would reach a point, because, you know, I loved my PR person, was fantastic. Not everybody's experience with PR is that way. I feel like we did an amazing job, but it was super high lift for me. I mean, I gave a ton of free sessions to journalists, and my sessions are $300 an hour. And they are also very intense for me to do. It's not like I own a skincare product, and so for me to meet a journalist, I give them a facial, you know, which is still, that's also like a high lift thing for someone to do. But, you know, a lot of times you just talk to someone, but instead I'm like putting on gloves and doing internal work with them. So I wanted something that was still an investment that would work for me. And honestly, it's been a lot more work than I thought it would be. Like, I thought it would be a lot easier than it is to run the ads. I mean, creating the funnels is like fucking a lot of work. But yeah, I just kind of knew, okay, I think I've taken it where I can take it without extra. And I had run some ads before I started working with you. We had just futzed around with it with my former assistant, just putting like a little bit here, a little bit there, boosting posts kind of thing. Yeah, I just knew that would be the quickest, most efficient way to grow my list because I wasn't focusing on list building before.
And you said that we've reached your goal of doubling your list. It's like, can you say anything else about the results that you've seen since starting paid ads?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact numbers. I think my list was like 6,000 when we started, and I think it's about 14,000 right now. And I think we've been doing it for 8 months. I'm not sure, and with 1 month off or something. I mean, I had my biggest launch that I've ever had in July, so it was. I think that my biggest prior to that was 49,000, and we did 70,000.
Yeah, I think we consistently get 30% higher. I think 30% of your sales typically come in from the ads.
Right.
It seems to be the number that's consistent. So that's 30% more people that you're reaching with your offerings.
Right. And then, I mean, to me, the most valuable thing, honestly, is the list, because if like in the last launch, if we were to compare how much I spent on ads and then just the cumulative retainer over time, I think for at least the last one, it would end up about the same. But then I have 2,500 new leads who have heard my voice, been around me, and who are potential customers in the future. So I can't really quantify the value of that. And I definitely was not able to do that on my own. Like, no way.
Yeah, I mean, typically it takes somebody sort of months in someone's orbit before they purchase, so that when you're doing the list building, in addition to the sales, you might not get an immediate return on investment. But if you're like nurturing those people over time, which is what I'm all about, like nurture over time, then those people, I mean, there have been people that I've been watching for like a year before I ever buy their product, or I've been on their list for 6 months before I ever buy their product.
Yeah.
What's the next level, and how do you plan to reach and impact even more people over the next year or two?
Well, I have a little bit of help on this one because I have a huge book deal at a big size publishing. So
Yay,
I'm going to have a New York Times bestseller. And when you're on the New York Times bestseller list, you get attention. So
yay! Yeah, this book is going to be epic. I'm excited about your book.
Really me too. I wish that publishing was a little faster because I'm not excited about waiting another year and a half until it comes out.
Holy moly, really? You have to wait that long?
Well,
we have to wait that long?
March 2021.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So, the documentary, continue to do what I'm doing on social media. I live in New York now, so there's a little bit more opportunity in a place like this. Like next week I have a meeting with the Times, like things that are a little less common in San Diego. And I will hire outside PR for my next book again.
I'm pumped about that book. It's going to be amazing. But also let's tell people how they can find you, so that as things come out, when you've got another course coming out, we just did Money in the Nervous System again recently. We're about to do some more. How can people find you so that they can follow you?
Yeah. So the best way is to go to magamama.com and then sign up for the newsletter and sign up for, being the first to know. I always have wait lists for courses. So the people who are on the list get the early bird price and, whatever other special stuff I have going on. And on Instagram, I'm Magamamas, Magamamas, soon to be rebranded because of our current leadership. But
he who shall not be named.
Exactly. And those are the best ways to get in touch with me.
Okay, so Instagram, Magamamas, and Magamama.com. You've also got Facebook, which is that Magamama or is that Kimberly Johnson, your Facebook page?
That's Magamama too, yeah.
Is it Magamama? Okay, yeah, so you can find Kimberly there. And then, so my last question is, how do you maintain your own alignment and focus, your own spirituality, self-care, personal growth, so that you're not spreading yourself so thin and missing out on like what matters? Like, how do you stay focused on what needs to be done as you grow?
I get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
Which is a huge equalizer for me. I go to trainings myself. So like I just got back from a 6-day training in Holland on breathwork and the nervous system. I am really into ice immersion. So I also went to Iceland this year on an outdoor like adventure ice immersion breathing thing. So yeah, I need input as well so that I'm not always in the output mode. Like I said, I have movement classes here that I like to go to. I do not a daily breathing practice, but a few times a week breathing practice with our Breath Collective. It's not a big danger for me. The danger for me is overgiving and being spread too thin, but like remembering what really matters, that's not hard for me. Like, because all of this could go away and I like my life. I like who I am. And it's really not hard for me to remember the things that are important to me.
And I think a big part of that, from what I understand, from what I gather from this whole conversation, is the fact that you don't put a ton of pressure on yourself to follow the rules and to show up every day in the exact same way, but to allow yourself to follow your own energy and to be cyclical so that you can take care of yourself as needed, in addition to the giving that you do.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think it's also age, and I didn't grow up with social media, so I probably have a bit of a different relation to it than a lot of millennials do. I think I ride the line between I really care and I really feel like I have something to offer, but also like I am a small dot in a big universe over a long period of time. So I don't get so self-important that it's like, but at the same time, I don't get caught up in that perspective thinking what I do doesn't matter and it doesn't matter anyway kind of thing. So, that's the gift of underworld journeys. Like I've been to the underworld several times in my life already. I've also lived with very, very little. So having is newer for me, and I know that I'll be like, I moved to New York and everyone's like, you should get like a really fat pad. And like, like in the coaching world, it's like, live into what you want to be. Right. So like my friend actually sent me a $15,000 a month, like furnished fat apartment. And it was like, just go for it. Don't limit yourself. And I was like, yeah, I could do that, except for what makes me feel good is simplicity. And what makes me feel good and safe is living like below my means and not stretching myself. I've been stretched before. I don't really need that. So I like living simply, but that's me. I'm not saying that has to be everyone's thing. It's just, I know what's important to me, which is really, I like to travel when I want to travel. I like to go to the trainings that I like to go to. I like to be able for my daughter to have the things that she wants and not feel like she's not feeling that that's a financial pressure. I have an au pair, which is an incredible support to me. Her time is coming to an end and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. But that's like really helped my own nervous system to have that level of support. I don't do much cooking. She does most of the grocery shopping and cooking and a lot of the housework, not all of it. So I feel, and once you have some money, I feel that it's fun. Like I feel like I'm not, my personal worth's not attached to it. It's just like, it's fun. And like to be able, right now I'm going to be able to help my parents with something. And they helped me so much. I lived with them for a full year when I moved back from Brazil, because, and like, yeah, it's like, I've been through really hard times. So I'm a friends person. Like if I have good friends around me and I have time with my friends, I have my basic needs met and a cushion, I'm good.
Yeah. A lot of like simplicity, spaciousness sound like good values. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. And I also just wanted to throw out there that you've got a podcast. So if somebody is listening to this podcast, then you will likely want to check out Kimberly's podcast. So check that out as well. Also by the same name, Magamama.
And the funny thing about that is that I started that in a month when I was super sick. I was sick for like 3 weeks. So before I had an au pair, twice a year, I'd be sick for like a couple of weeks. And before that, I would be sick, you know, every time I got my period, I'd get a sinus infection. And I was like, you know, of course, I'm like the only person on earth that would freaking start a big project like that when they're sick. But I was just in bed the whole time. So I was like, okay, well, I might as well figure this out. And I didn't like track the numbers. I didn't have an editor. I didn't know how to do sound editing. So I would just record the thing on Zoom and then I'd put it up. And like, if you listen to the first episode, some of them are really good, but the sound quality is terrible. There's no music. There's no intros and outros. But it was like, done is better than perfect. If I don't start now and I wait until I have all those things, I won't do it because my life's just too full and too busy. And so, you know, now I have, you know, 5,000 downloads an episode and I check those things more. But at first I wasn't. I was just doing it because it was like I wanted to do it, you know, like it wasn't like this is a strategy and everyone should have a podcast. It's like I love having conversations. This will give me an excuse to have conversations with people that are super interesting. And I think other people would like to hear it. And then after, you know, 20 episodes or something, then I hired someone to do the music. And now I have someone else do this. At first I was doing all the show notes. I was doing, you know, now I hire someone to do the show notes. I hire someone to edit it. And now I have interludes where I advertise my own things on the interludes. I never take paid advertising, which is just my own thing. So yeah, it's just different.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This is a really awesome conversation. And
thanks for having me.
Honored to have you. And thanks y'all for listening. Have a beautiful day.